This is Eddie Muller. Thanks for joining me again in Noir Alley, where I am ready to kiss off this lousy year faster than a femme fatale drops a penniless sap. I'm also celebrating because today is the Noir Alley premiere of the film that really started it all, Double Indemnity. I'm not claiming, of course, that this is the first film noir, but it is the essential film noir, the one that broke the dam and inspired the flood of crime and murder movies comprising the film noir era. Now, the reason for its influence is simple. Not only did the film earn critical acclaim, it was a huge box office hit, a far more significant factor when it comes to setting trends in Hollywood. As usual, I'm going to start with the writer. In 1934, during the depths of the Depression, former newspaperman and flailing screenwriter James M. Cain wrote a slim, suspenseful novel called The Postman Always Rings Twice. This tawdry tale of lust, adultery, and murder became a surprise bestseller. MGM was compelled to buy the rights, even though there was no chance of it being made under the oversight of a newly reinforced production code. In 1936, Cain wrote a slightly different version of the same story, serialized in Liberty magazine. It wasn't published in book form until 1943, with two other novellas in a volume called Three of a Kind. And by that time, veteran screenwriter Billy Wilder had begun directing pictures at Paramount. He'd made the comedy The Major and the Minor and the World War II drama Five Graves to Cairo. And although provocative humor was his forte, Wilder had another ambition, to create a thriller to rival the best of fellow emigre Alfred Hitchcock, whose recent hits Rebecca, Suspicion, and Foreign Correspondent earned him the title Master of Suspense. Paramount producer Joe Sistrom brought Wilder a copy of Three of a Kind in galley form prior to its publication, suggesting that it might be suitable grist. Wilder gave it to his secretary to read. Legend has it, she went MIA that afternoon, only to be discovered in a stall in the ladies' room, devouring a nasty little tale of sex, murder, and betrayal that Cain called Double Indemnity. Wilder was sold, but his usual writing partner, Charles Brackett, was not. Brackett was an East Coast blue blood who found Cain's work lurid and vulgar, and he refused to cooperate on it. This was a blow for Billy, because his writing process required a colleague, somebody with whom he could hash out the story and bounce around ideas. Well, Joe Sistrom suggested a guy whose detective novels he enjoyed, Raymond Chandler. An oil company executive, Chandler had begun writing only after he was fired for chronic drinking. His three novels were pieced together from short stories he'd written in the 30s for the pulp magazine Black Mask. Chandler was now 55, married to a woman 20 years his senior. He was uptight unless well-oiled and trying hard to hide his alcoholism. Wilder was 37, witty, randy, and wildly ambitious. All they had in common was that they were both snide and sarcastic. And they agreed that James M. Cain wrote lousy dialogue. Serviceable on the page, but stilted and lifeless on an actor's lips. So, cooped up in Wilder's office, the two wrote together. Even though Chandler typically worked in isolation, nursing a bottle and imagining himself as tough, sardonic Private Eye Philip Marlowe, Wilder, the prince of Paramount, strutted around, slashing a writing crop through the air, gleefully dominating his collaborator, who'd sneak into the men's room for doses of liquid courage. They despised each other. Now, within a few weeks, however, they'd created a screenplay that would revolutionize motion pictures. Here was a story in which the principal characters were cold and cunning, driven by lust and greed and an existential ennui never before seen on screen.
Yes, I killed him. I killed him for money and for a woman. And I didn't get the money, and I didn't get the woman.
Wilder relished defying the production code, making a film specifically about how and why people commit murder. He believed audiences would delight in watching bad people do bad things, and Chandler abetted him by turning Kane's blunt prose into hard-boiled poetry. They both imbued this cruel story with a streak of mordant humor that made it all the more squeamishly entertaining. Another stroke of Wilder's subversive genius was casting as murderers a pair of popular actors audiences loved for their humor. Barbara Stanwyck was coming off two classic comedies, The Lady Eve and Ball of Fire, and she previously co-starred with Fred MacMurray in the charming romance Remember the Night. And she initially begged off playing the role of a calculating killer, and Wilder challenged her by saying, "I'm sorry, I thought you were an actress."
What do you want me to do?
I want you to be nice to me. Like the first time you came to the house.
Can't be like the first time. Something's happened.
I know it has. It's happened to us.
After their collaboration, Billy Wilder and Raymond Chandler parted the worst of enemies, but not before Wilder acknowledged Chandler's contribution by giving him a cameo, waiting outside Barton Keyes' office at the Pacific All Risk Insurance Company. The Double Indemnity script would be nominated for an Oscar, and Chandler never forgave Wilder for not inviting him to the ceremony. Double Indemnity was nominated for 7 Academy Awards in all, including Best Picture. The irony is that Wilder would win both Best Screenplay and Best Director the following year for the Best Picture winner, The Lost Weekend, a movie about an alcoholic writer, largely inspired by his collaboration with Raymond Chandler. The noir movement in Hollywood officially began September 7th, 1944, when Paramount Pictures opened Double Indemnity nationwide. It is 74 years later, and I'm hoping some of you have not seen this film, because I'm honored to introduce to you the definitive film noir, Double Indemnity.